To get the alternator out of the way, we're going to remove this upper alternator pivot bolt. So we have to use two 15mm wrenches. One, as you can see, I've got over here on one end of the long bolt. I'm turning it with the other, loosening it with the other end. Okay, so we'll continue to work that off. So we've got this alternator bolt off. Sometimes you just have to tap it out. Very long guy. Okay, this is an underside view of the lower alternator bolt. It's 15mm. I had to take off the tensioner pulley, which is right here, in order to get some room to get a 15mm box end in there. It's about 10 inches long. So now from the top I'm going to break this bolt. Okay, so from underneath here I got a 15mm half-inch ratchet in here. Managed to break this rear alternator bolt loose. Now we're going to pry this alternator loose here. There it is, loose. At this point we can pivot it and then undo the electrical connectors here. Much play on the wires to allow us to bring this up into a really comfortable position to work. Okay, I think that's about the best we're going to get. Now we can see the connectors right here. So we'll get in there and undo those. So this top one's 10mm. 1/4 inch is fine for this job. Okay, so this back connector, you want to get a hold of it from the back here. Squeeze right here. Push in and squeeze and pull up. It should come out. Okay, our next mission now is to remove the bracket that holds the alternator, since we have the alternator loose. And I've made this little bar here to hold the sprocket, camshaft sprocket, while we attempt to break it loose. So these are spaced out to fit in the little holes in the sprocket. Whereas when we put a 17mm breaker bar on there. Okay, so I managed to wedge this back here against the firewall. And it's coming, finally. What I didn't want to do is let this camshaft move at all. The rest of this bolt out. There's also a washer on there. It lines up with a hole for alignment purposes on the gear. And off it goes. One more thing, make sure you mark front and rear on these. You can see I got rear marked on this one. Getting in the way of taking this bracket off for the alternator is this map sensor bracket. There. Okay, the other thing to do with this sensor is just to unplug the air line. Okay. There's a 12mm here holding it to the another part of this bracket. This is actually on the alternator bracket. So let's get this out of the way so we don't bump it and damage it. Okay, so the other bolt that needs to be removed is this little 12mm one. It's mounted from the top. Goes through a little bracket on here and into the pump. So we'll get that one out. Okay, there's 3 bolts that hold on this bracket, AC alternator bracket. One here, here, and here. And what I'm going to use on here is 12mm. What I like to do is step it up to 1/2 inch, stick an adapter on there. And this half inch ratchet. This gives us a lot more torque for pulling this thing off here. No problem. Okay, there we're going to have to use an extension. On this one right over here, if I can slip a 3-inch extension on there. Now the one that's over by the tensioner assembly is recessed a little bit, so went back to 3/8, busted that one loose. These 3 alternator bracket bolts are all the same length. Okay, so seems as though there's something else back there that wasn't mentioned in the repair manual that I have. And sure enough, there's another bracket back here. I can't quite see what it attaches to. Okay, so there's a bolt back here, 12mm, some bracket that's going back behind the engine. I managed to get a wrench on it. Of course, I can get absolutely no torque from this angle. So I was able to get a hammer back in here and tap my wrench, which I had in place. I don't have it in there right now, but I think you can get the picture here. Just get the wrench on that little bolt back there that's behind the bracket, and then tap on it like this. Once it's on there, underneath the hose, of course, it's in the way. In so doing, I was able to break it loose. Okay, so everything's out of the way of the alternator bracket. It's completely disconnected. Now let's see if we can pull it off. Now here you can see how this was the only way really to get this bracket, which causes problems taking the water pump out. And getting this out is really the only way to do it. Okay, here's the alternator bracket out of the vehicle. This is the part that goes over, that actually bolts onto the water pump. There's the tensioner. And this is the hidden screw back here, the hidden 15 or 12mm that's going to a bracket in the back that caused us a little grief. Another piece out. Here's a look at all the other parts that I've taken out already in this big job. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this alternator out of here, just because I can. Now that the bracket's out of the way, and I have this unwired anyway. There. I'm going to take it out. Of course, if you were just changing the alternator, you'd never want to go this far, this much disassembly to get it out. But I took it out. To get it out under ordinary conditions, you have to take this undercover off here, and then I think you can slip it through there. I did not investigate what all is involved in that, because I'm not doing that right now. Okay, now that we have taken out the bracket, you can take out these remaining 5 bolts on the water pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, with all those out, we can tug it off now. Easier said than done. Do a little prying. So of course, you need to get the gasket cleaned off. You just try getting under it with a putty knife. So we're trying to remove some stubborn gasket material here. What I have is a Dremel tool with a wire brush on it. Okay, another technique that doesn't work too badly. Try this technique over here. I'm going to start reinstalling the water pump. First up is a seal that goes on it's on the water pipe that's between the cylinder banks here. Now I'm using Felpro. I'm using a kit. In this case I'm putting the old pump back on. I just wanted to replace the gasket. I've had this fail once. Don't want to be tearing this apart again. So I got a good Felpro gasket, 35399, $2.50. So we'll mount that on the pump. Replace the O-ring that comes in the kit. You should wet this down first before you put that on the pipe. So we have a new O-ring. Installing on the pipe. Okay, so there we have our water pump. Got the gasket in place. Just a couple of dabs, a little bit of RTV just to hold it in place for installation purposes. What I also like to do is clean up the bolts. Now I ran a little Dremel brush over these, make sure they're clean and ready to go. Then we'll put them in, torque them up, even it out, back and forth until they're all at around 20 foot-pounds for this application. You're going to seat the pump now. Okay, I'm going to kind of let as I pull the bolts in, it'll seat it on that pipe inside. And now we're just going to gradually ratchet those down, 12 millimeter. Just getting these tightened up nice and even, back and forth, end to end. Okay, so you want to torque these to 20 foot-pounds, which I have right there. Okay, that one's good. Okay, that one's good. And that one's good. 20 foot-pounds we're in.